Welcome back to Spirit Sherpa, where spiritual practitioners learn to master their gifts, grow their businesses, and change lives. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, spiritual business coach. Yeah, I know what I am. Spiritual business coach and transformational shaman. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. So I have a friend who I go out walking with every Monday morning, and we have a great time. We hang out, we talk business, we talk personal stuff, we talk theater. And we go for a long walk and then we have a coffee, which is one of the highlights of my week. And one of the things that's been happening is I've been launching this new process for you guys is I've been talking with her about the program that I'm designing, and she's been sharing her experiences from other coaching programs. And we were having a conversation about that yesterday. She's a certified coach, and the coaching piece wasn't fully formed for her. And so, Barbara, I'm going to have you come in and take that conversation over because I think it's important for people to hear your perspective on it. So welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you. So glad to be here. Excited.
So give the listeners a little bit of history. How did you end up in coaching? What sort of certifications do you have? That sort of thing.
My background is in theater, and I do a lot of work in communities wherever I am. I came to Boquete from Boston and have not been working in those. I was a director here for 8 years, but have not been working in the coaching field while I've been here, besides just personal conversation with my friends. I got into coaching because I took a coaching class, and I wanted to be able to understand it, not only to apply to my life, but I wanted to be able to understand it to explain to other people. And I took it with Debbie Ford, who at the time was incredibly popular, very well known, a real star in the world of coaching. I took it for a number of years. I went on two weekend retreats at the beginning of the coaching class with her and at the end of the coaching class with her, where we had to fly out to California and do our retreat there. It was all hands-on. It was very exciting. I felt so aware and open after I took these weekends. And then I realized when I got back to the real world that I didn't have a connection with my inner self and the information that I'd been given. I didn't know how to make the connection. And how do I feel about this, and how do I express myself to my clients through that feeling? I knew it, but I didn't feel it. And I'm very tactile and feeling is my strong suit. And I couldn't, in good faith, share that work until I understood what was going on with me and how it affected my life. Because I've had a very traumatizing life. And this was the first time working with coaching that I ever had the opportunity to actually look at what was going on and understand it. So I made that a point. I took myself into that practice of learning how to make it part of my body, part of my life, and understand it. And when I met Kelle was talking about that. She was talking about connection with herself and connection with the people inside of themselves. It wasn't just a brain thing. It was a physical thing. And it was the first time anybody who had worked in the coaching that I had worked with had ever discussed that. And I fell madly in love, and I wanted to know everything there was to know. And it was exciting to be able to put pieces together for the first time. At 72, which is how old I am, it's an amazing thing to get a second chance to go through this experience. And it gives me a lot of hope for getting older, and I love doing the work. I love working with other people. I love feeling their feelings and holding them while they express themselves and while they experience what's going on for them. I feel like I'm home when I do that work. Just like I do when I do theater and I act and I direct, I feel very much at home. So Kelle helped me to reconnect with myself internally, which was exactly what I had been looking for so long. And I had coach certifications, the Ford Institute, and I had a lot of clients. We did it on the phone. We did it in person. Any way it was working for them. Usually, if they were in Boston or in the area that I was, we got together personally, which I really like doing more. but I've been a coach almost as long as I've been in theater. So these are the two areas, and I've put coaching into my work on stage and done work in front of audiences around coaching that didn't look like coaching. It was a story that was told.
Yeah.
And people got it. It was cool to bring those two things together for me. So could I be any more excited? No. I love everything about my life right now, and mainly because I know Kelle, and I enjoyed being with her every Monday, and I do it every minute of every day if I could.
Oh, bless you. Are you open to sharing? When we first met that first day, you had shared something about a ritual or a space that you had been in where they took you partway in and then dropped you. Are you open? And then you and I completed the work together. Do you remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. You mean the very first time when we
Very
met?
first time. Yeah.
I do remember that. I can say my background is, it's almost like it was meant to be. I was adopted. So I came into this world without a family. Of course, I was adopted very early. I had a family from when I was a baby. But in the long run, that family wasn't about family. It was about my parents' individual interests. My father was a surgeon. My mother was a professor. They weren't interested in creating an environment for me and my sister that we could feel at home. They were interested in being who they were, and we needed to fit into that. And my sister checked out by being an alcoholic when she was 9. And I checked out by being a people pleaser, and I just was looking for love my whole life. I've been in 2 very, very horrible narcissistic relationships, long-term. Narcissism, my parents were both narcissists. And it was just surviving during my life. I just survived. It wasn't until I got married, but I was still in the survival place. I didn't feel confident about my abilities. I didn't believe that I had anything to offer anybody. And coaching was, for me, when I started taking coaching classes and having coaches work with me, I realized that I wasn't alone for the first time. Everybody else in my class, I had 9 people that I went to school with at a private school for 9 years. Everybody in my class had different environments that they grew up in. Nobody was adopted. And I didn't talk about myself in that way at all. I didn't talk about myself, but every day I brought that energy into the classroom and struggled with it for years. I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to tell anybody, and I was embarrassed and ashamed. Since the coaching, I've gotten clear on what was going on for me. My parents are both dead now. I can't say that I could ever forgive them. And I'm sure that a lot of what I picked up from them in my childhood was stuff that I brought into my mom time with my 2 daughters. We've talked a lot about that. And it hasn't made anything better. They're all grown up now, but they know where I came from, and they understand what happened, and they knew my parents, and they knew how they were. Coaching was the thing that put me back on track to find myself, because I didn't know who I was.
So how did you end up at that retreat or whatever it was where you walked in and started on something and the woman didn't know what to do with you and just left you hanging?
I went to the retreat because I wanted to be a certified coach. And I had been taking certification classes before that. And part of the obligation at the end of the 2 back-to-back certification classes was I had to go to the workshop. And actually getting to meet Debbie Ford and seeing her in work and everything else, it was an exciting opportunity. But the information, it was all information. We did a lot of exercises. We did a lot of hands-on work, but I didn't know how to incorporate it. Nobody talked to me about this. When this comes up, this is what you can do. That's what I focus on when I'm working with clients is, these are opportunities that you have to grow. How do you do that? What happens in the moment? I needed that because I'm hands-on and because I'm tactile. I really needed that direction. And whether other people needed it or not, there were probably 50 or 60 people there, all women, and nobody asked for clarification on that. When I got home, I realized I didn't have what I thought I would have after the experience. I did get my certification, but I didn't understand how the work reflected in my growth. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah, you felt like you had information, but you felt like you didn't have a way to actually implement it.
Exactly. I could
Okay.
say the words, but I needed the feelings in
Yeah.
order to express it.
Okay. And a lot of that comes from being able to see the coaching done and then understand why the coaching was done the way it was done, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was missing. I
Yeah.
want to know why. And that's what you've given me, Kelly, is a lot of whys. And it's changed the way I look at my life. And we've been probably having coffee for I don't know how many months, but
Yeah. Not many.
it was a small little bit in my life compared to all the other money and everything I spent. This is where the change happened with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about some of the limitations that you felt in getting your certification, because I find this is true with a lot of coaching programs. And I want to be really clear, guys. Barbara took this class how many years ago?
Jeez, 10, 15.
Yeah. So we don't know what they're doing now, and I'm not making any claims about what they're doing now. And this is just Barbara's experience. Other people may have different experiences. I just want to be clear.
Yes.
But this happens a lot with a lot of coaching programs and certifications where you're given a whole bunch of information, but no implementation or very little implementation. And the implementation is you practice with somebody else and you're not supervised per se. It's like, how are you supposed to learn if you're not supervised? If you're just practicing and you're both practicing badly, how is that good? Right?
Exactly.
So there should be supervision. And there should be, if you're a therapist, now I want to be really clear, we don't do therapy and you shouldn't be doing therapy if you're a coach. That's not what coaching is. But therapists have therapists that they go to, that they're
Yes.
expected to do their own work with, and that
Yes.
are their supervisors. So they are both there for them to do their work, but also for them to ask questions about, I had a patient that was this thing or that thing. And that doesn't happen in most coaching programs either. And so
The only person you can bounce things off of is your partner, which
Right.
is somebody else who doesn't have any way to connect the two.
Yeah, somebody else who's just as clueless as you are. Right?
Well,
Wait a minute. I'm a big fan of, and you guys can thank Barbara because she came up with the idea for me to include partnering people up in my programs. And I am definitely going to be doing that as we step into the processes in the Spirit Guide School of Transformation. And so you will get a partner. And having a partner is valid. It's useful. It's somebody to check in with. It's somebody to be accountable to. It's somebody to have a camaraderie with, to say, did you understand this? Oh, yeah, I got that. Here, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah.
yes.
Or no, I didn't get it either. Let's go talk to the coaches and find out, right? And then the other thing you guys are going to find, and I haven't announced the level yet for this, but when I do my spiritual coach certification program, which I will be doing, I do actually do all of that process with you guys. So you get a video of a large group coaching call, and then you get a breakdown of exactly what was said and why. And I had a couple of students that I was training to be coaches at the time that I did the program. And that allows me to be able to explain in detail why I said, what I saw on the screen, what made me choose this versus that, or this person versus that person, and how I went through the process. And so sometimes the debriefs can be twice as long as the coaching calls themselves because there's so much to unpack, right? And that is super valuable for being able to understand what's going on. And so and in addition to that, then you also have a coach who is a skilled certified coach already supervising your coaching. So you practice with each other, but you do have to practice with the coach or turn in coaching calls to the coach in order for them to review it. So all of these things.
That's such a great addition.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah. And it's crucial, right? Because
Yes.
if you aren't picking up on the right things. You're never going to know that unless somebody is looking at you going, see, this is the place here where you missed that piece, right? And
Absolutely.
that's how you learn, right?
Exactly.
And it's also a way to understand how you're appearing on camera and little things like, is your nose just right above the bottom of the screen? Then that's hard for people to connect with you, right? Is there half the room above your head? That makes you feel like you're not really solidly in the screen. And that actually has an impact on the way that you're being perceived on the arms, things like that. There's technical issues too, right? And
Absolutely.
the way you phrase things and how you go through the process, it's so important. And the thing that I come back to over and over again is that there are skills that you build from the foundation all the way up that layer one on top of each other. And this is one of the things that you and I keep talking about is the layering of skills, right? It's like, okay, I have people do Marco Polo check-ins on their first year program because people are uncomfortable on camera and looking at their own face. And the Marco Polo forces them to do that and get used to it, which makes making videos later in the process when they're ready to actually put themselves out on the internet, it makes it so much easier because they've got the practice, right? So
Brilliant.
every little piece is considered as we go through this. And I'm doing a program on divination, and then I'm doing a program on dream interpretation, and then we're doing a section on guided meditations and building your own guided meditations. Well, every single one of those builds on the one before it. Right?
Totally.
In the readings, in the divination, you learn how to read the different symbols on the cards and things like that. And you get comfortable with the idea of symbology on the cards. And that introduces you to the language of symbology. And the next level is the dream interpretation. That introduces you to symbols on a whole different level. And you start to understand them at a deeper level. You start to understand how they relate to one another and how the person's personal symbols come into play and how that works. And then you take all of that information and you bring it into your creation of guided meditation systems. And now you're like, okay, I understand how the symbols work. Now let me see how they get put together into a metaphor that turns into a guided meditation. And let me start with the end in mind and figure out what I want to accomplish and what the story arc is. And now I know how to understand that process, right? And so every single step builds on the last. And all of that builds into several years down the road where you do your master ritualist certification, where you're now designing rituals in real time with multiple practitioners serving as ritualist roles. And you're doing all of this. And so there's this huge support structure that's built from the bottom up when you think through your process. And the spiritual coach certification sitting right in the middle of it makes perfect sense because now in the ritual space, you're going to have people going into meltdown. You're going to have people needing to process. You're going to have people needing to do all sorts of things. And you need to have the skill set to do that. You did that in the spiritual coach certification, right? So every single step builds on the last. And it's just, if you're building, what you're creating is structurally sound, and I'm saying this not to toot my horn, I'm saying this for you guys who are thinking about building courses and thinking about building potentially a school, because I've talked to 2 people in the last week who want to build a school. If you're looking to build a school, you need to be thinking about what are the foundational elements that people need to do the next step.
Absolutely.
And how do those build into the larger picture? Right? And that's a relevant piece of the puzzle. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle, in fact. And it's not just about conveying information. It's about getting people comfortable with skill sets along the way and making sure they do their inner work at the same time. And this is the thing you and I have been talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Doing your inner work. If we can't heal, physician, heal thyself. If we can't heal ourselves, we can't teach it.
Exactly.
And we don't have any information to figure out what's going on for you. So we need to go through the process ourselves in order to teach. And it's hard to find a good coach. It's hard to find a good leader to teach you that at that level.
And it's not just about learning for yourself, because yes, it is, because you are not safe to work with others until you are at a point where if somebody bashes on your buttons, you don't spin out of control. If you become unpresent to the situation, If somebody hits your button, then you are not safe to work with others because you need to be able to go and then say, I'll put that away and deal with that later and stay present with your client. If you can't do that, you're going to be you're in a position where the container that you're holding for them will not be solid. The work that you're doing with them will be tainted by your own crap that you're in the middle of at the same time as you're talking to them. And they will be able, so if you work with smart people or highly intuitive people, they will inherently understand that if they bash your buttons, they don't have to deal with their own crap. And so when you push them to a place, when you've got them right at that edge where they're going to actually make a change and they freak out, they're going to hit your buttons to get away from it. And then every time someone steps up to that line and doesn't cross, they build the line of bricks between them and the other side, one layer higher. And so you're actually damaging them when you do that. So you need to make sure that you are safe to work with clients. And that means you have to have done your inner work in order to get to that level. This is one of those things. And this is why in the first year that I work with people, I'm like, okay, we're going to do a deep amount of inner work. And the work that I'm having you do with people is not transformational. It is informational because you can do that work generally mostly safely with people because you're not trying to walk them through a transformative process. You're just giving them information. I'm doing a reading, I'm doing a dream interpretation, I'm doing a guided meditation, which can be transformational, but generally is not confrontationally transformational. And so therefore it's generally safer, right? And so the idea is that gives you the way to do work in the world while you're getting to the point where you are no longer the wounded healer and you are safe to work with. And so by the midway through the second year, you should absolutely be in that place where you're completely sovereign, you're completely ready, and you are safe to work with others, right? And this is the other piece of the puzzle is make sure that you are ethically designing your programs, right? And so ethically, I'm not having people do anything that they would be unsafe to do in the beginning. And so this is how the process works. And when you're thinking about designing your systems, you want to keep that in mind. And as a practitioner, you need to be paying attention to, am I safe to work with people? Am I dangerous if I get triggered? Do I have a well of rage so deep that it's just going to go? Or am I going to collapse and fall back and not hold the container and fall into myself and not be able to be present? And because that's the other side, right? And either way is not great for a coaching environment.
No.
Yeah.
People have to feel safe and they have to know that whatever they disclose to you is safe between the two of you.
Yes.
And it's not something that we're going to go out and talk about to other people. It's not something that we're going to use as an example for other people. This is private and it's between the two of you, said.
Yeah. So when you're doing work, and not to say that you never talk about your clients as an example ever, but you don't make it identifiable to them.
Exactly.
You have to say it in such a way that it's not clearly identifiable as XYZ person, right? And so, because we all need to have case studies, we all need to have a way to communicate about it. And if you're in a relationship with, let's say you're coaching somebody and then I'm coaching you, right? You need to be able to come to me and say, oh, I've got this problem. I have this question that came up and I don't know what to do. I don't know who the client is, so there's no exposure there. But you can tell me specifically what's going on. And I can say, okay, give me a little history, what's going on with the client, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is where I would go with this next, right? And then 30 years worth of background of doing this, go figure. So, it's like you're leveraging all of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just look at the client and go, you know what? I don't have anything on this. I'm going to talk to my coach and see what they say. Because that is the most transparent and honest thing. And as a coaching client, I would be like, oh, great. You're not going to blow smoke up my butt? I'm excited about that.
It's hopeful because it's rare.
I don't know is a perfectly fine answer so long as it's followed by let me find out and get back to you.
Absolutely.
So that's where you go with that. Barbara, we've been talking a lot about different experiences in education out in the world and the coaching communities that are giving information about structure, right? It's like you approach it this way, you take this step, you do this thing, blah, blah, blah. Structure is great, but if you're not getting implementation support, if you're not getting advice on what to do when things go south, right? Because they do.
Yes, they do.
If you're not getting, and you and I had that conversation, right? We had the conversation about what if you're standing up and teaching and somebody asks you a question and you don't have an answer, or if you're coaching and you don't have an answer. And so I'm going to give you guys one piece of advice on air so that you can have it as an example, right? So somebody asks you a question and you don't know the answer, or you haven't ever thought about it before. The first thing you do is you say, what do you think about it? What do you feel about it? And their answering that question gives you time to think about what you think about it, to think about whether you have an answer, to bring yourself into that space. And sometimes they'll just answer the question themselves when you reflect it back to them, and then they'll be fine. If not, you've had time to think about it, right? And now you either have an answer or you don't. And if you don't, you can say, this is something that's ongoing. I'm not feeling a solid answer on this. What I'm going to ask you to do is go journal about it between now and the next call, or for the next few days, journal about it, and then send me a message and let me know what your journaling has brought up. Ask your dreams to tell you things. Give them tools to be able to do their own inner searching, which is valuable unto itself.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them a tool that they can use when you're not around. Okay. And then you can then take that question and come to your coach and be like, okay, what do I do? This person asked this question. I don't have an answer. What is the answer? But in the meantime, you've given them something functional to do so they don't feel dropped.
Exactly. Well said.
At good skill set to do it. And when they have any need for anything else, right? And so these are the sorts of things that you should be learning. If you're learning in a coaching platform, if you're learning in any sort of platform that you're doing, because this stuff applies if you're teaching a class or if you're doing a reading or anything like that. These are all things that may come up. And so having the skill set to be able to manage it is super valuable. Right.
One time when I was directing here, I had a very large cast, and they disagreed with a lot of things with each other. And it was tense, and there was crisis going on. And so what I did was I put them in a circle, the way we do when we do coaching circles. We were in a circle, and we talked about it. It was something that most of them had never had the experience of. And it really changed the whole trajectory of the way they worked with each other. They heard each other. Of course, in the beginning, I had to be very hands-on with making sure, now let Jimmy finish. And these are adults. And that was the piece that was missing for them. It's nice to have, coaching is good for a lot of things. Like you said, like teaching. There's so many opportunities to use it. And with yourself. It's an important skill that we do that we can use for ourselves. I think it's one of the most important, it may be the most important skill I've ever learned.
Yeah.
It's really been an exciting experience to live in that world.
Yeah, it's interesting because it starts to infect all of your life, right?
Yes. Yes, I love it.
Speaking of the theater, when we did Mamma Mia, I was music director as well as starring in the show, but I went and bought little plastic Oscar statuettes and printed their names and their role on them and put them on the statues. And at the end of the show, at the cast party, I gave away these statuettes. And for each person, I had something specific to say as part of the presentation about them and how they showed up and who they were. And in ritual, we call those touchstones, right? Yes. So I went into the event saying this is an Aphrodite tale, right? And therefore it's an Aphrodite ritual. And so I walked in and I had told everybody that this is an Aphrodite ritual that you're entering into and this is what we're doing. And the entire process everything came out of that. And there were all kinds of interesting things that happened as a result. And it was a very challenging production. But having that touchstone at the end saying you made it, right? This is your reminder that you
Valuable.
made it, right? And that's very much a ritual process, right? Is to have that
Absolutely.
touchstone to keep hold of at the end. And
And
so,
it creates connection in a way that other things don't.
absolutely.
Sometimes the show comes together because the people click with each other, and sometimes they don't click with each other, but they still have to work together.
Yeah.
And that ritual is something that we can rely on to bring everybody back to what the important piece is here, which is the show, and also finding a way to work it out with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of these things matter. And we've been all over the place with this stuff. We're walking down multiple different paths. So if you think about, because you and I have been talking about what I'm doing with the program and all of that, if you think about next steps for you as a coach, what are the next steps for you? What do you feel you need to do to move yourself and or your practice forward?
That's such a good question. Right now, the most important thing for me is getting present with what's true in my life, because I made some major changes in my life and now I have to incorporate them and get peace with them. And the work that I've done over the years in coaching allows me to ask myself those questions and find out what I need to, how I can move forward this way. I find that every day I have interactions with people that allow me to use my knowledge of coaching to communicate with them. A lot of times in a very different way than anybody's ever communicated with them before. And so it stands out for them. They remember it and they think, there's more to this. So whether I go on and train myself some more, and obviously I'm going to take some of Kelle's classes, I want to keep making it a daily business for myself as constantly looking inside and finding out what's going on for me, and then getting present with it and holding it. Just like you said, somebody says something to you when you're coaching them and you go off on them, you can't do that. You got to stay present with yourself. Even if things are hard right now, you have to stay present with yourself. And it gives you the tools. Coaching gives you the tools to keep that center, no matter what's going on. And it's a wonderful gift for ourselves, and it's a wonderful gift for other people. Did I answer you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Dancing in the twilight.
Yeah. We get there. It's all good.
Okay.
So, anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up for the day?
I guess the most important thing that I want everybody to know is how powerful you are and how capable you are of doing this work with all of us. It's a gift that is rare. I've had a lot of different coaches work with me, and I've had people who have very high standing, such as the person I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, very high standing. And it's easy to get out of control with all the clients and all the classes and everything else. And the thing I know about Kelle that I've experienced is that she stays focused. It's almost like she weaves things in. As we continue conversation, she adds another little thing that we have to talk about, which opens the door to more things. She leads us into a place where we can be completely truthful with ourselves and face what's going on in a very direct way. And that to me is unique in the coaching business, even though it seems like that should be the primary thing that coaches do, they don't. Kelle does that. And I'm not just saying that to tout her, to give her a lot of accolades. She deserves all of the accolades. I've worked with a lot of people who were professional coaches. And Kelle's the first person I've worked with in a friendship way that has given me the big picture and shown me a way to connect myself with that big picture. And that's what I didn't know that I didn't have until I met Kelle. So all I can say is I'm going to be taking those classes right along with you. I'll see you there. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. And guys, if you got something out of this episode or any episode, please share it with a friend. Please remember to subscribe and share with everybody you know. It's how we grow the podcast. It's how we grow people learning about all these important pieces and factors that go into everything. And thank you so much for listening as per usual. You guys are the best. I love you. And remember, what you focus on expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.
Namaste.